Welcome to Season 3 of Creatively Speaking. I'm your host, Leanna Weller-Smith, the founder of Weller-Smith Design. In this episode of Beyond the Binding, I chat with AJ Harper, a renowned ghostwriter and co-writer behind bestsellers like Profit First and Clockwork. AJ is also the author of her own book, Write a Must Read, Craft a Book That Changes Lives, Including Your Own, and also co-hosts the podcast Don't Write That Book with Mike Michalowicz. AJ and I met at a mastermind event a couple months ago, and we hit it off immediately. I've known of AJ for a while now, so it was fun to finally get to meet her and talk about all things publishing. So I was thrilled when she said yes to this interview. With a portfolio of over 100 ghostwritten or co-written books and nearly 200 edited works, AJ's expertise is unparalleled. In this episode, we learn of AJ's personal journey from ghostwriting to teaching, overcoming burnout, and rediscovering her voice. We also talk about her proven methodologies for identifying and connecting with your ideal readers, along with her book, workshops, and more. While AJ specializes in prescriptive nonfiction, these are how-to books, business books, self-help, etc., I found that her way of approaching authorship can cross genres and is even applicable to our cookbook authors. Since we're talking about connecting with your audience, meeting them where they're at, and incorporating stories to connect with them, I mean, hello, head notes. I think we're all on the same page here. Whether you're an aspiring author, first-time author, or a seasoned writer, AJ's practical tips and inspiring stories will help you overcome common writing challenges and maintain creative momentum. Be sure to check out AJ's workshops, book, and podcast, as she holds nothing back so she can help guide you in creating life-changing, reader-centered books. Let's get started. Hi, AJ. Welcome to Creatively Speaking. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
I'm excited to be here. We had so many good conversations, so this is just going to be one more.
Exactly. I love telling people a little bit about how I meet the guests on the show. So, you and I, we really just met a few weeks ago, and I will say that I was a fangirl before, so I already knew of you before we met.
That part.
Yes, so this is all new to you. So I've seen you in different capacities. So I was at the heroic speaking with Michael Port, and they were talking about AJ because we were talking about mapping out a book, and they're like, AJ, and I was like, oh wow, that's so, who's AJ? Because I was just starting to really dig more into publishing on that side of our business. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, who is this AJ? So I started following you from there, but then as I realized later that I've been reading your books for quite some time because I read Profit First. I also read Clockwork, and you are Mike Michalowicz's co-author, I guess that's what you would say.
Co-writer now.
Co-writer. I love that. So I had already known who you were before we met. So when we met, I was just like, oh, I'm so excited to meet AJ for one. But then what made it even more just impactful for me is we actually got to share some rides together. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, it was just special time that we had where there were 3 or 4 of us in the car. And I really, that time with all of you, it made a great impression on me because we got to know each other deeper than just through the group that we were in.
Yeah, it was fun. We had such a good, amazing spark of a wonderful time.
Yeah. So that's how I met you in person, but I had also known you prior to that. Hey. So it was super, super excited. So me just mentioning Mike, I would love for you to even just let everyone know who you are, what you do, and how you help people.
Thank you. So I'm AJ Harper, and I'm the author of Write a Must Read, which is right behind me, which is the only book with my name on it. But I've written over 100 books as a ghostwriter or a co-writer and edited maybe close to 200 books. I don't know. Maybe it's more like one. You start to lose count. But I've been in publishing for 20 years. Right now, I work with authors directly to teach them the methodology I developed to write books like Profit First. And so I help them write books that people read, love, and recommend. Meaning not just get a book done, but get a book done in a way that truly connects with the reader so that the reader is compelled to tell everyone, you have to read this book. So that's what I teach people how to do in a few workshops throughout the year. One big workshop that I do annually. But mostly I'm focused on that, just helping authors do what I did and do it themselves.
I love that. And I totally get like the draw of writing. Like, I mean, Mike's books they have cult followings pretty much, they all turn into something else. So if he comes out with a book, there's going to be something else attached to it. It's like bigger. And I think there's a lot of people that want to write a book, and they want that type of, I don't want to call it lightning in a bottle, but they would love AJ in a bottle, like to help them create this. And so you've been able to come up with a way to package some of your genius and help people to kind of find their own way, possibly.
Yeah, so I think people can do it themselves. So to get the kind of results that Mike gets in terms of book sales and notoriety, that's also the second piece, which, as you know, is just as important as the writing, which is the marketing. So you have to always take that into consideration. The lightning in a bottle piece is that marketing piece. Is a book going to catch fire and take off? But it's not going to do that. I mean, there's always exceptions. There are crummy books that make it.
Yes.
But they're few and far between. If you want that kind of result that, say, Mike gets or any big author, you need a book that people truly love, that is a real page turner, that people mark up, they underline it, that Post-it. It's just a mess, That's the book you need to write. And that's not lightning in a bottle, actually. You can learn how to do it. And you can absolutely do it yourself. I can't promise that she'll be, win a Pulitzer or something, but you can definitely learn how to write in a way that your reader responds to and that's in truly caring of their journey. And that's what I teach people how to do. And it works. I just found out today, I have one student, Dr. Marie-Helene Pelletier. She wrote the Resilience Plan, and she's made it in the last month. Well, first of all, it's an award-winning book and a critically award-winning book. So you know how there's sometimes awards, and they're really just to make money for the award company. So did awards. She was in Inc.'s top 5 business book a couple weeks ago, and today Forbes.
Wow.
So that's just one example. It's on my mind.
Yeah.
And she's one of my alums, one of my students. And so you can learn how to do it. It's totally doable. And I think there's a myth that you kind of have to compromise to get a book out there, that's not possible. So let's just focus on getting it out. How fast can we get it out? Let's just do the best we can, but let's focus on speed. And I really think people are capable of greatness in their work if they just have some help thinking about it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I think you had mentioned it. So I've been listening to lots of podcasts that you've done or interviews that you've had, and just to kind of like dig a little deeper, even in my brain. But like, yeah, there was this moment in time where there was the get your book out now. It's a better business card. It's like it became this like quick and easy way for your name to get out there, whether it was good or bad. Half the people say, "Oh, I hope you didn't even read my first book," because, and like you were saying, I heard in one of your interviews you had said, why are you doing all of this work, whether it's a good book or not a good book? There's a lot of work that goes into it. So why don't you go that extra mile and really make sure that it's a good book, that people want to read the book? You want them to read it.
I think authors, most of them, some authors are transactional about it. They just want to check the box, get her done, whether it's a bucket list item or it's just part of a marketing plan. They want to, whatever. that's cool if that's your jam. But I think a lot of authors come into authorship just wanting a really pure outcome. They want to help, at least with prescriptive nonfiction, which is my focus, books that are designed to help people make something better, their relationships, their business, their body, their spirituality, their whatever, right? I think people who want to write those books, I think they really care.
Yeah.
So I want people to hang on to that and don't compromise on that.
So prescriptive nonfiction. So I never really heard of that term. And so I'm sure some of our listeners really haven't heard of it. So you were saying that these are books that are written to help in some way. So it could be a fitness book, or can you explain that a little more?
Self-help, relationships, business. It's basically, all these books. So it's anytime that you're trying to find answers, a way forward, relief, you want to reach a goal, you want to fix something, you want to feel better. That's basically it. We used to say personal and professional development books. We used to say that. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, but I also do help people with teaching memoir and hybrid memoir, because it's kind of in the same zone where you really are thinking about the reader experience and the promise that you deliver to them. So that I also do work with people who do that. But, when you're trying to show somebody a better way or a way, that's prescriptive nonfiction.
Got it. Yeah, because when the first time I heard it, I was like, wait, is that just sounds better than like a self-help. It was
no, it's getting a bad rap now.
Yeah. Yes. So I was telling you before we got on, I've also been listening to your book, Write a Must Read, and I've been enjoying it so far. I think there's some thought patterns in there that can really cross different genres of books. I have mentioned several times we work with a lot of food bloggers that are making cookbooks, and a couple of the things that I heard even in the beginning of the book was, the goal of, connecting with that ideal reader. And I feel like our clients, a lot of them, they actually have that down pat because they are food blogging in a sense. Like they know who's coming. They know that they want these kind of recipes. They know what level of cooking or technique they're giving them, so they can meet them where they're at. But I was so excited just to hear, like you were saying, like a book is not about something, it's about someone. And I felt like that.
For someone.
Say that again?
For someone.
For someone. Yes. Yeah. And I feel like I feel like our cookbooks, a lot of that is infused in it. So I would love your take too, just on, how to get somebody to that point if they don't have an audience already.
Well, it doesn't matter if you have an audience or not. It's understanding who you want to help. And then also understanding the language that your audience would use to describe what's going on. So it's as simple as understanding what do they want and what is their perception of what is standing in the way. And the second part is where a lot of people get tripped up. So you'll say, well, I think they want this, and then this is what's wrong. And that when we say, well, what we think is wrong might not be what your audience thinks is wrong. And part of our job as authors is to sometimes unwind that wrong thinking and shift that perspective to say, okay, I know you think it's this, but hey, it's also this other stuff, or hey, it's really this thing. And a lot of authors just get tripped up on that. When I say a book is for someone, it's not just a tagline. It really is hard at first to shift your mind away from what you want to say to what your reader needs based on where they are.
Yeah.
So it takes practice to say, oh, wait a minute. Nope, that's what I think. Okay, what would they say? And so if you don't interact with people like food bloggers do, so you're not getting a lot of interaction and you don't have anyone to talk to, you can do little informal polls. You can find people who do access those communities and say, hey, can I just ask a simple question and get some comments in your community? There are ways for you to just ask folks on social media or even one-on-one to try and understand how they would describe the thing they want and what's standing in the way.
Yeah, that's great advice. Because I think that people get tripped up on that then, and they're like, well, I don't know who or how, or the who, the how, and the what, but it can be as simple as just putting yourself out there and asking the question, getting that feedback.
Yeah.
So when people come to you, are they coming to you, like, what stage are they coming? Are they coming in all different stages? Do they have a manuscript? Like, what is where are they at?
So a person who's ready to come and learn with me is a person who knows that they want to write a book and has some idea of how they want to help people. And that's honestly it. It's helpful if they've, have a sense of how to help, meaning maybe they do client work or they have a program or they teach a class or something. But it can be as early as that, with not a word written, not clarity about audience. That's all good. And I also have people who come to me with, say, a 90,000 word manuscript that's already complete, and everybody in between. But I think it's not, you're not ready to come and learn with me if you just have this sort of vague idea that you want to write a book.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, people always ask me if I want to write a book, and I mean,
do you want to write a book?
I don't think so. But I don't know. So I go back and forth, because we design books. We do business books. We do all sorts of lifestyle. We do the cookbooks. We do everything. And I love designing them. But then when I think about what would I write about, I'm not sure. So I feel like I fall into the category of, it's not on my bucket list, but I would love to help everyone make their books. So I always tell people, I don't have the content, but you do. So,
if you get to a place where you feel like you could really help, or that your story might be useful to someone, that's when that's calling to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that you're not ghostwriting for anybody anymore. Is that correct?
Yeah, not for a long time. I want to say it's been 7 or 8 years now.
Okay.
People ask me on a weekly basis. So
I'm sure they do.
Yeah. But I do still write with Mike Michalowicz, and we write a book every year.
That's amazing to me. Does he just brainstorm up ideas? Do the two of you think of ideas, or is it more Mike is coming up with those topics?
It is a true partnership. So he's always thinking about what he wants to work on. He's had for about 14 years, he's had a list of 25 books that he wants to write, but it stays that number no matter how many we write. So I don't know. He's got a bunch of ideas. When we're ready to start a new book, we do a retreat. And so we'll go for about 2 days away from our families. And he'll say, okay, this is what I've been thinking about. And he'll kind of present several ideas that he thinks are really important to his readership at this time.
Oh.
And then we will kick them around. And by the end of the weekend, we'll have decided on one. We'll have completed the full book fundamentals, which I talk about in my book. And we'll have completed the outline as well. And we'll be ready to pitch.
Wow. That's like superhuman. I feel like that's superhuman. That's,
I think we've been working together I got to get the date right. It's an old email, but I think it's 14 years. I want to say it's 14 years. It might even be longer, actually. But at any rate, if you've been working together for so long, you can get through things faster. Our reader is the same.
Yeah.
We know them so well. We know each other really well. So it's easier. That is not a typical situation.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I was listening because right now I'm in this weird audio space, meaning I've been listening to a lot of things from everywhere. And recently, I don't know why, but I was listening to something from Adrienne Dorison. And so she's part of Clockwork. And I think it was definitely something that, I think it was like how that book came about. It was just this, I don't know where the audio was, but it was in when?
I know what she just posted about it. Is she posted
maybe that was from today.
Run Like Clockwork came to be. So the book didn't come about with Adrienne. She was just interviewed for the book.
Yep.
But then from that, they entered into a licensee partnership. And so she runs Run Like Clockwork, and was very successful. And then she also was really helpful when we did the revised and expanded edition of Clockwork, which is right behind me.
Yeah. And that was like in that clip that she had posted, I think Mike was saying he was talking about the work that the two of you had done together and how they, profit first, here's profit first. And then he was thinking like, okay, so if this is where this person is at and they've become profitable now, and then so what is the next thing they want? Like, so then, and I was like, how smart is that? Like, it's like just building out this library of content that is each in its own is its own thing, but then they can be strung together for someone like myself who, yes, I started with Profit First. Yes, I would love to go to Clockwork. Next, I think it was All In. I haven't done that one yet, I think. But, I'm like, how smart is that to like kind of follow someone's path, knowing your reader? Like,
yeah, so that's something I taught to Mike when we were on book 2. And he had that list of 25 books. And so I said that, it's not really what do you want to work on next? It's what the reader needs.
Mm.
And it's not that what you want to work on doesn't matter, but you need to start with what does the reader need next? And sometimes you end up realizing, okay, I know they need that next, but that's not going to work for me right now. That's also okay. But it's important to still, again, meet the reader where they are.
And have you found like that the authors that are coming to you are kind of following that similar path where they want to be authors, like meaning like they want to release more books, or is it a mix where they just have this one idea? Or I'm curious about that.
It's sort of a mix, but I will tell you that when there are quite a few authors who've come into my workshop and they'll say, "I'm just doing the one book."
Okay.
It's like it's like they're warning me. Like, don't talk to me about another book. This is it. And it's all I've got. And I say, okay. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah. And so I actually have quite a few people who've written second books who came back and worked on second books. I don't know. I think when you know how to do it, you learn. Here's the thing that people don't realize, that I really need to write an article about this. Writing a book is hard because you are learning how to do it while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have these crazy expectations of how we should be so great at it. And it should be so easy. But you're actually learning a new art form about an industry that you know nothing about, which is, as you know, just so beyond complicated.
Yeah, it's complex for sure.
There's no one answer for anyone's publishing question. There's never one standard answer, and you know that. So you've got to learn all that, the craft of it, overcome your inner critic, because it rises to the top anytime you create something from nothing, and write it.
Yeah, it's like it's going through that whole process. Just like you said, it's very complex, and no one is the same. And even with our cookbook clients, like we have some coming back now for book number 2, which, I mean, a cookbook, 100 recipes, like that's its own sort of drama over there, right? Of like, but again, it's just like you said, the nuances of technical details. Like, okay, so how, like on our side, we're like, this is how a recipe should be written. This is how even though they're food bloggers, they've been blogging forever, there's still technical details when it comes to a cookbook that's different than digital. And they come out of that process with us, like with a whole new sort of lens to look at their work through. So they're like, I'm going to incorporate this now on my site, like moving forward. And when I clean things up, I'm going to update things. And then they're like, next time, because they're already saying next time. And I'm like, they've got the bug, because once you get past this is so hard. and how am I going to figure all this out? And once it's done and you see there is a path, somebody can help you through that path in one way, shape, or form, that it's not so scary the second time.
Yeah. I mean, you learn that part of the learning curve is over. So then all the other scary stuff remains, but that part is over. So it's understandable why people get the bug.
Yeah. So when people are in the workshop, are there any sort of typical roadblocks that they come up against when they're getting started?
Yeah, it's just themselves, man. I mean, I guess this was true when I was a ghost as well. But because I was working one-on-one, I didn't notice it as much. All ghostwriters are part therapists. So that's kind of normal. But then when I started teaching, gosh, I'm spending a ton of time just trying to keep people in it.
Yes.
Because the desire to quit or not turn something in, and the second guessing, it's just almost like a daily onslaught. And I think, Steve Pressfield talks about how that's he calls it a law of the universe, this form of resistance, where anytime you're going to make something from nothing, it's like everything wakes up. Everything that you could possibly be nervous about just wakes up.
Every fear is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you don't actually ever fix it. You just have to manage it. And some days it wins and some days it doesn't. And I think that's the biggest issue with authors is just not staying the course, because there will be a better day.
Yeah.
You just have to stay in it.
So in your workshop, what are the sort of phases that you take them through?
So I take them through, it's the same as in my book. So my book is separated into development, writing, and then editing. And my take on authorship, at least for prescriptive nonfiction, is we have an overemphasis on the writing part, and we don't spend enough time in development and editing. And so people are always talking about writing, when actually all you're doing, if you've done enough development work, is just getting the words on the page like clay on the table. It's terrible. It's not going to be good. We're just going to get it done. And then we move on to the longer stage, actually, that is editing. And I think the balance is off, where we are overemphasizing getting the first draft done when we need to spend more time making sure our message is right, our outline is transformational, it's going to take people on a journey.
Yeah.
It respects the reader and the whole way. Really doing a lot of work in the beginning saves you time. Make sure you hit your mark. And then it's editing that actually makes a book great. It's not writing.
Right. Are you then kind of helping them move the big pieces, like the developmental edit? That's how we try to explain it to our clients. We're like, editing is like an inverted funnel. So it's like this funnel that goes down, and it's like up here is your developmental edit. You're moving all these things around. Copy edit, you're coming in a little bit more. Now you're filling out nuances of things. And then you get your, typesetting and proofreading. That's a whole other thing, making sure. Are you taking them through that whole process, or is it just one aspect of it?
No, I teach them the editing method I created for myself, and then I work them through it. So I actually serve as their editor during the class, developmental and substantive, for as much content as they create during the class. Okay. So sometimes, it's kind of intense, actually. They get a lot done. And my favorite thing is by about week 12 or 13, they stop asking me how to do things. And they start saying, I was thinking my reader probably would be freaking out if I put this here. So let me I'm going to maybe move it over here. What do you think? So they go from saying, how is this right, to saying, I think I'm going to do this. They just want reassurance at that point. Yeah. Then I know that they've turned a corner, because they've started to really think about the reader. And honestly, that the editing process is just a series of decisions. Right. And most people don't know what questions to ask themselves. But if it's all rooted in reader experience, it's much easier.
Yep. That makes sense too. I think so what do they do when they're done? Like, so what do they do? Like, once they get it to a certain point, are you passing them off to other editors? Are you helping them get book deals? Are like, what happens after the workshop is over?
It's really custom. It depends, because some people self-publish, some people go for traditional deals, some people go for top-tier hybrid deals. And I will absolutely give them guidance about where to go. If I have introductions to make, I make them. But it's really just depends on what's happening next for them.
Yeah.
And then we do have an alum group called Author Collective. And so that's for folks who want to keep editing, want to keep staying in, we do this great thing called live edit. And I do live edit on Zoom with everybody in the group of one person's work or multiple people's work. So they love that and they want to keep going. And that's an option for people who want to. But I mean, mostly they know what they're going to do next. And it's just individual for each person. Because I also I give them deep and realistic knowledge about the three primary publishing paths.
Yes.
So that they can make an informed decision and advocate for themselves. I think a lot of people just think that they don't realize that it's not about what they can do. They should start with what they want to do.
What they want to do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We always try to tell when we have these calls with our clients, we're basically doing self-publishing. So, but it's a high end, high quality type of self-publishing. So it's not through KDP.
You're following traditional standards, which
yes.
is really important.
Exactly. So we're following we're trying to position it really as like we're bridging the gap between traditional, hybrid, and self-publishing, because we have a little bit of everything in our process, which makes it unique. But that is part of, like, we always ask them, what are your goals? What do you want to do with this book? Where do you want it to live? Where do you want it to be sold? Like, what is the vision for it? Because as with any book, like we just said, there's so much that goes into it. You also have to think about how you're going to sell it and how you want it, delivered to people. And, we've been able to really bridge that gap and give people that are fully self-published some of the perks of traditional publishing, which is kind of cool. It's cool that we can do that. And, but even with the, self-help business books, the type of projects that you're working on, we ask the same questions when we get those authors in, because we get, not that we've had any of your authors, but we get authors similar to those that you work with. So then they come to us and they have this massive Word doc that's like the most boring thing to look at in the world, but it's got great content in it. Mm-hmm. So we're like, well, let us take it, format it, and make it readable and enjoyable. So we're adding that other level, like, kind of, it's for the reader. Like, how can the reader get this product and be excited to actually read it? So
first of all, I want to say I was really impressed when I heard the results you get for authors. I was just so excited. I was texting my teams like, I met someone.
I know. I'm like, there's so many things I want to do with AJ. Just all the things that you've set up as well. Like, even just having workshops. Like I said, I don't see myself writing a book, but like, even just that step that you took to create these groups, and you really have been able to, mold this career of yours into something that gives you flexibility, lets you reach more than just one-to-one. When did you start doing the workshops?
I will tell you, I just also want to say, if you got a manuscript from a T3 person, that top 3 book workshop is my main class. If you got one, you would say, oh my gosh, hallelujah. You just say, what is happening? Which is what publishers say when they get my author's manuscript. What's going on? So hopefully that day will come for you.
I hope so. Yes.
So I quit ghostwriting. I was super burned out. I was no longer in touch with my own voice. It was just gone, because I was sometimes writing 10 books a year, was nonsense. It just don't do it. But, you know, I didn't have good boundaries. I just wasn't really good about managing it. I was great at writing the books, but I just was not good at handling the demands and having good boundaries. I also was I worked with a lot of really successful thought leaders, and some of them are not always in integrity. And so that was hard because I had convinced myself, well, if you're in integrity, then that's okay. And I had this pivotal awakening at a conference. It was actually, I shouldn't even say where it is. I'm not going to say where it is. I don't want anybody to guess. And I don't even know if I can tell the story, but I will say I had, you know, like when the veil lifts
and you see
the wizard behind the curtain.
Yes. Yeah.
And I knew the wizard was behind the curtain.
Yeah.
But I really had convinced myself it was fine.
Yes.
And then I had this moment where I had a conversation with somebody very famous that I was working with. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm part of it. I'm part of the problem. So I said that, all right, between that and burnout, it's like, you have to get out. You can't sell your soul, you know?
Yeah.
So what I did was I just stopped taking contracts. But it took me 2 years to get out. I always joke, it's like, sounds like I'm getting out of the
Yeah, I can out of the big house.
It was just because I was honoring the contracts I had.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was just winding down. And then I didn't have a plan. And everybody was like,
what are you
going to do? Like, I don't know. Because you know when you get to burnout?
You can't see past it. You can't, you're like, I'm just going to go be a cashier. Like,
I mean, seriously, I'm going to be on a beach somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll like coffee. I had no answers. And then a bunch of people started saying, well, what about everything you developed and you know how to what are you going to do with the knowledge? I had nothing. I'm going to do nothing with the knowledge. And I was very egocentric about it. I said, I don't think anyone else can do what I do. So what's the point? And then it was Mike, actually, who said, that's BS. Although he cursed. And he said, you're letting your ego run you, and you need to figure out what your systems are because you definitely have them. So I said, okay, let me see if he's right. And I did client work for about 1.5 years. And I just meticulously wrote. So instead of writing the books, I guided people soup to nuts through the process, which I didn't love at all, the one-on-one client stuff. But it was really good because I took really copious notes of what am I saying all the time? How am I explaining this? What, you know, because when you're just doing it for yourself, you don't have to name it. You don't have to think about how to explain it to anyone. So that helped me. And then that's what gave me I said, okay, I think I could teach it now.
Yeah. I think it's so, when I heard that you had the workshops, I knew you actually had the workshops before I met you because that was part of what everyone was talking about. And the people that I talked to, they loved them. Like they said they were transformative because it really got them to think differently about their book. And so Mike is right. You've got your magic can be shared with others in this format, which a lot of people have experienced it.
That's why I wrote the book, because I don't scale my workshop. So I only take a few students a year.
Yeah.
And I like it because it lets me do one-on-one. It lets me really connect to people and help them stay in it and give them a home. And it means a lot to me. So I thought, well, this is not helpful if you just pretty elitist, if you're only working with this small group of people who can afford you. So that's actually why I wrote the book. I didn't write the book and then do the workshop. There's a lot of talk about my workshop in there because those are my good examples to give people.
Yeah.
But I really only wrote it because I thought, okay, let me just try and make this more accessible.
Yeah.
To folks, you know, if you've got $27 or a library card, you know, you can get it.
Well, I think it's like, it is a great, like I said, I'm listening to it. I'm not the whole way through it yet, But I love it because, well, first off, you do a great job narrating your book, and I can listen to you. Like, I'm like, AJ's reading me a book, like since I know you, I'm like, this is amazing. But the narration is great, but then just the little tips and the stories that you tell in there, they're so relatable, and I think that this book really can help the aspiring author just even getting started, or deciding if like they go through this and they can follow the plan that you have, but then if they want to work with you in the future, they can. It gives them that opportunity to, I know I'm the type of person that's like, well, I'm going to follow this first and then I'm going to go there, but I want to get my ducks in a row so I don't feel like I don't have my ducks in a row.
Yeah, I get that a lot. I mean, honestly, you can read that book and I put the whole workshop.
It's in there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wanted, and just you can get a lot from that.
Yeah.
And also, honestly, Mike and I have the podcast, which you mentioned, which is called Don't Write That Book. But honestly, I mean, that is like a class.
It is. Oh my gosh. That was the first thing I started binging. I don't even know how I found it. Like, but that was probably, I don't know, it had to have been 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was after we met, but I found it, but I'm not sure how I found it. And I love that series. Like it is just like you said, it is like a masterclass. You're talking about bestseller lists. You're talking about writing the book. You're talking about naming the books. You're talking about all these things that people want. Like, if you ever said, I wish I was a fly in the room, that's what that podcast, I think, is to me. It's like the two of you just jamming, and it's so awesome because it's like you guys are sitting in the same room. It sounds like I think you guys are there together.
I drive to New Jersey every time.
I love it. It is. When did you guys start that?
We actually started it over a year ago, but didn't release it until November. So we got a bunch of episodes banked because we're both super busy. So we wanted to make sure we had enough. Yeah, I leave my house at 6:30 in the morning, and I go to New Jersey to Mike's studio there, and we record 3 episodes back to back. We have a great time, and I think people like that it's just the two of us and no gas.
Yep.
And we don't always agree, and we're super different.
Yeah.
And we're very different in terms of just personality, but very aligned in values. So I think that's what people like. It's just, and then of course we're great friends, it's been a long journey together.
Yeah. And that's what, you guys really do just bounce off each other. You can tell you've known each other for so long, and that you have,
I think we annoy each other a lot.
Yeah. But it's so cute to listen to you guys because it is like a peek into that room with you, and the information that's in there is gold. It really is. I think I just listened to the Amazon bestseller one. I think that was the last one that I had listened to. So I think I'm like 4 episodes in, possibly around maybe around there. Was there a favorite one that you recorded?
So actually, yeah. I mean, I got this idea. We recorded an episode about the most successful book we ever wrote, which is Profit First. And how did that come to be, and how did that work, and what's behind a bestseller like that, which just sold over 1 million copies. But I said, we need to talk about the worst book. And nobody even knows what it is, because it's the worst book.
The worst book.
So there's a whole episode. It's one of the first bank of episodes. And it was hard. It wasn't that hard to talk about, but some of it we had never talked about with each other. And it also coincides with the time that we had a professional breakup.
Oh.
And so we talked very honestly about parting ways for a time. And when we came back together, it was with this worst book. Because Mike had decided he wanted to do this book, and I was sort of coming in after he decided to do it.
Oh.
And we made a lot of wrong decisions there. So I love that episode because Mike and I are always totally transparent and honest. So I hope that comes across when you're listening to it.
I haven't heard that one, so I have to. Maybe I'm not listening to them in order. Maybe I'm just
You're
listening.
Probably not.
I think it might just be coming in. Okay.
The Amazon one was one. If you go to the website for Don't Write That Book, they're in order.
Oh, okay.
If you're interested, but you can also, so I can send you a link if you want it for your own show notes for that specific episode. But
Oh, okay.
I think that's my favorite because I love that the two of us are very honest and transparent. And I think there can be healing in creative partnerships. And we don't always talk about when things don't go right and then how we get back together.
How you kind of bounce back from there.
Yeah. We actually were completely split.
Wow.
Like, done with the, yes. And then
I'm done.
yeah, we were both ready for that. And it was not amicable. I mean, it was amicable in the split, but it was tense.
Yeah.
It came from tension. The split came from tension. And then Mike realized that he really needed me to come back. I mean, I think it's very hard to find a ghost who can do your voice.
Do your voice. Yeah.
A lot of people can write a book for you, but they can't always become you. So I think that was the frustration. He had many good writers, but not anybody who could be him.
Yeah.
At any rate,
go ahead.
I just love that episode because I think it's helpful, to hear the truth.
I also think, and this is without listening to it, I also think it'll be good to hear just to see, because we know all the success that Mike has had with these books. So it's good to also know that there may be a book that you do that isn't as good as some of the others that you do, but you have to find a way to move on from that and lessons learned. So I'm looking forward to listening to it so I can get what?
I'll send you a link.
So I can get the full context, but I can see that being really valuable on multiple levels for sure. But it is a great podcast.
Thank you.
And I like is it called Don't Write That Book, right? Mm-hmm. And that's in the context of don't write that book that nobody reads.
Yeah. Yeah, don't compromise.
Yeah, but I think that's so smart. So I'm glad you guys are doing it. I even had a few other friends that had mentioned that they were listening to it and they're getting a lot of value. So I think you guys are on to something with that for sure.
Thank you.
So we'll definitely have it in the show notes.
I mean, you could just listen to that and then it's free. You don't need my class. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that's not true, AJ.
Well, I'm always the person that wants people to get stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I don't ever want to be like, let me hoard my opinions and trade secrets. I just love just doing the podcast so that people can learn.
But I think people they'll learn, right, from the book and the podcast, any of that info that they absorb. But there's still something about being in the room with someone that really, like for certain people, I don't know, it's almost like that support system to get you like, okay, I know this. You could learn all the things from the pieces, but then it's almost just having somebody say, this is great, or you should really rethink this, or just to have that guidance, somebody to bounce it off of that you trust, that you've learned from, whether it's from your book or from podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Did I win that one?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I just think it's good to. It's just my value system to try and make things as available as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what I love about it. And I love to I also love the relationship that you and Mike have as co-authors, because a lot of people, if they're looking for something like that, for that kind of connection with another person, it's hard to find. Just like you said, it's hard to find somebody that can bounce those ideas off of each other and know that you're both coming from the same space, but then also that you really value the other person's opinion if it's not the same opinion.
Yeah, I think I would just say it is the reason that I still write with Mike, and even though I retired from every other client, is because it is very rare creative chemistry. And so people often ask me, they want me to do that for them. They want to know how to get that. And I have to caution, everybody to say, do not have that expectation. That is lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
That was just like fates aligned kind of situation. So, and like I said, we almost completely screwed it up. So I think don't wait for that is, I guess, what I would say, because it's unusual.
Yeah. And do you have any plans to write anything special?
Ooh. Mike and I, we write a book every year.
Well, do you, like you even, not like, I know you guys, but do you have anything that you're thinking about writing on your own at all? Or
yeah, and again, I don't mean to keep bringing up the podcast, but that's something we've been talking about in episodes too. But just trying to make those decisions. I actually had a deal to work on my second book, and I canceled it this year because even though I thought, okay, this is what my readers need next, I wasn't feeling it for myself. And sometimes that happens. So I decided, I had to decide between these books I wanted to write, and ultimately decided to not write a book this year, but to work on this content I wanted to create for authors and throw it up on Substack.
Oh,
because that way it's more immediate. I can test it to see if people are liking it enough for it to be a book. Yeah. And if not, that's okay. And that way I can have a little more fun with it without the pressure of the book. And I think that's important for authors is you don't always have to come right away with the next book. You could just sort of play around and see what resonates with people and with you. So that's what I decided to do on my Substack, which is the same title as my book. So it's Write a Must Read.
Oh my gosh. I want to be on that. I want to be on there. I want to see it because when you launch it, you have to make sure you share that with me because
I will.
That is so smart.
Yeah. And I wrestled with it for this whole year because I was supposed to deliver the book, this month actually. Oh. And I was a good way into it when I realized I was bored out of my mind. Bored out of my mind. And it's just because I had already taught a class about it. It's about test driving your content. And it's really important to, I have a little evergreen class called Test Drive Your Content. And it teaches you how to make sure that your content works and frameworks and methods work for readers. And then also how to pull stories from that and anecdotes and do all this cool stuff. And you try to do a book about it. And my publisher was really psyched. And then I don't know. I just got bored with it. Sometimes the class is enough. Sometimes it doesn't also need to be a book.
Yeah. And I love that, but I love this Substack idea because I do feel like a lot of people are really getting great feedback from things on that platform. And it has like its own little life cycle of like, I like this and I share this here. It's got its own little ecosystem, which I totally love. And it'll be interesting to see how people respond to the different topics that you talk about.
Are you on there? Do you read on there?
I do read on there. Yes. I read a lot of like agenting, and a lot of cookbooks and a lot of like Jane Friedman and like I'm listening. I read a bunch of them. Yeah.
So I read a bunch of the same stuff.
Yeah.
So the cool thing about Substack, at least right now, because it will change.
Yes.
But is that it really is like a respite from the rest of social media.
It is.
Right?
Yes.
And it's you can create community on there, and that really, really appeals to me. So for now, I think it's a great place for authors to go, actually.
Yeah. And they just added like video, I think, in there. And it's really become, and it's great because it then has the paid platform. You can have free content. You can have paid content. But I love the way that I don't want to call it influencer marketing in there, but like if somebody likes it, like anybody, you don't have to, I could be the one to say I recommend this. So it's like the way that people can recommend it, and it's not about like how many followers you have. I think that's how I want to say it. But like somebody like me could just be like, I love it, but that just goes into the collective of like how many people and then how many people it reaches, and it's a really cool platform.
It is. I mean, it's work, right? It's work to build that out. If you like writing, I think it's a good choice. If you don't, you shouldn't do it.
Yes. Yeah. I won't make one.
But I think it's, some of your authors might enjoy it. I bet they could even do a paid model with recipes and things. And if they like, it doesn't have to be long form essays or anything. So for now, I'm seeing authors build massive, their mailing lists are just increasing.
Huge. Yeah. And there are some food bloggers on there that, or I wouldn't call them food bloggers. They're like culinary content creators, really, is what they're at that point when they're over there. But yeah, they have massive followings. They're making a lot of money. They're like, and it's just a natural, like they're being them. They're not trying to be anything else. They don't have to worry about WordPress and Google Analytics and SEO and all that stuff. Like all that stuff doesn't matter. So it's an interesting platform. And it allows people to really get some great reach.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is cool. So I know we are hitting our time, so I want to respect that. I would love for you just to, if there's any sort of insights or tips or that you would like to leave our listeners, if they're interested in writing a book or reaching out to you about your different workshops. I know you just mentioned one that I didn't know you had. So how many workshops or programs do you have?
So I teach one main workshop a year called Top 3 Book Workshop. That is the big kahuna one. That's like the gauntlet.
Yes.
But I also teach editing workshops throughout the year and retreats as well, which is, basically helping people figure out if their book works, so it's on a smaller scale with retreats for 5 days and then a 6-week editing workshop for those who are interested. All of that can be found at ajharper.com. But I think that what I would love to leave authors with is I believe firmly that if you get the idea for the book, you are absolutely capable of executing it. So I want anybody here who's got some idea and they think, I just don't think I have the chops for that. You absolutely do. You just need to learn a way forward. It's not about talent. It really isn't. Unless you were writing a novel. If you're writing a novel, we'd have to have a talk about talent.
Okay, that's okay.
But we're talking about books that are designed to help people, useful books that are truly life-changing. Honestly, if you have the call to do it, you can absolutely do it.
I love that. Well, AJ, thank you again so much for being here with us. I can't wait for this to air. It'll air in a few weeks, but we'll make sure that we have all of the different things that you mentioned on here in our show notes. And I can't wait to see you. We're going to get to see each other in a couple of weeks. So
yes, we have lunch.
Yes. Well, so thank you. And I'll see you soon.
Yes. Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. I loved it.
Awesome.